adaptation, and it's really sad for my families because their children really have their strengths, and it seems like the teachers they have worked with can't see that, and
Okay.
that is the problem with my clients.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So we're asking what challenges do your patients have with school and learning? I know that in the form, some put like ADHD, apatía, también como disengagement. Marta?
Yes, I would say all of the above.
Okay.
I see many ADHD children and the many struggling readers.
Okay.
And lack of motivation. What I see is that particularly children, because of how the world is working right now with streaming, and most of them don't even watch a TV show. They don't see any series in Netflix. Children of all ages, they rather watch a short YouTube video, and usually they don't even finish the 10-minute or 12-minute YouTube video because they get easily bored.
Okay.
So when they go to school, they find it extremely difficult to engage in the period of class because they feel it's too long. There is much to read. And well, I'm always saying that we thought that not using technology was going to be this century's illiteracy, but it's not. The thing is, children they can read, but they don't want to read.
Wow, that's a really great point. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would like to say I don't see any small children. I can talk about what I'm hearing more from parents.
Okay.
Or some late adolescents. I think it's sort of evolved. My impression is that this has been by stages, and that at first people were very frustrated and flustered, and when school didn't reopen in January, people were even more upset. But what I see happening is some parents are seeing their kids starting to flourish, getting comfortable with this, with the system of being independent and getting on the schooling through the internet. The shy kids seem to flourish. The girls don't have to face, the middle schoolers don't have to face the bullying and all the backstabbing that tends to happen at that age. They're dominating more the internet, so it's not only for social reasons, but that little ones are realizing that they can research things. So it goes both ways. You know, those that are whose children are just can't stand it anymore, and there are those who really have adapted and are flourishing. That's my comment.
Thank you, Danny. And Danny, you work with a lot of people with ADD and ADHD, would you say? Also, in general, in your practice?
More later adolescent, I mean, early adults. You know, I have a bunch of ADHDers at their 20s, and more with parents.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of those kids.
Understood. Marta?
Yeah, my experience with my patients is that definitely I agree. There are two different groups. Some that are really anxious to going back to classroom, and the others that they find it easier. Those who find it easier usually used to have some kind of social interaction issue before the pandemic.
Okay.
So they find it easier to do it this way. The thing is, how are we going to help them to integrate again once we go back to school?
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, anyone else want to share your challenges if you have different challenges with kids?
I just wanted to add to what Marta was saying. Yeah, for most of my children, they have find this situation easier because they can avoid this social situation, and parents say that they are better this way, but others have challenges and stay still during class and paying attention, even if it's virtually, and they have a lack of attention span. So for most of my children, this is the challenge, the attention, the sensory integration problems, because as you may know, most of the attention problems can have a sensory base. So they need some aid to perform better.
Great, thank you so much. Would anyone else like to share their challenges with their parents before we start the presentation? With their patients, sorry. Okay, so, okay, here we go. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing those. So Acton as a school empowers children to learn in ways that conventional education doesn't. You can see here that we don't even really have desks. I mean, we have tables, but we don't have desks in rows. Our learning environment, we have a pure Montessori preschool. Carmen is our director, certified guide with more than 20 years of Montessori classroom experience. So we're really dedicated to the concept of Montessori, and that is our environment from about 1.5 years old until 6 years old. We use hands-on learning in almost everything that we do. We have character education based in ethics, and we also do a lot of fun and enriching family activities. Our campus is like a house. So it literally is a big house in Antigua Cuscatlán, and it really feels like home, including home-cooked meals. We go out very often on many field trips, and we have a lot of guest presenters that come. We have a junk food free campus, and we also will accommodate dietary restrictions. We have an international virtual middle school program that we'll tell you about later, and we have the possibility of earning college credit starting in our high school. So here's an overview of our studios. We're just going to tell you about the school, and then we're going to address your specific concerns. So again, Montessori preschool here from walking until about kindergarten, first grade. And then for the older students, once they get into elementary and middle and high school, it's the Acton Academy model, which again has its roots in Montessori, but we add some more modern elements also. You're probably aware of Montessori, but we'll just talk about it for a moment. So as you know, in human development, the years from birth to 6 years old are the absolute most important years for brain development. And that is where Maria Montessori focused her time and energy. We chose this philosophy because we believe it's the #1 best learning environment for children from birth to 6 years old. Why? Well, Maria Montessori did not, as you know, she was a doctor. She was trained in observation and in looking at empirical evidence. So when she came to work with children, she didn't bring a theory and then try to make the kids fit the theory. She came with a blank mind and she watched them and she documented exactly how they were through meticulous observation over more than 2 years. And then she started to form her understanding of children. It's not a philosophy, really. It's not a method. It is her scientific observation of the way that children are. She developed the sensitive periods of development through observation. And then she developed materials, hands-on materials for children to learn what they needed to learn when they were ready to learn it. And in an environment where they were the center and the adult was the observer and the follower of the child. So that's what we think is the best thing for children. So that's what we decided to choose for our school. We have an authentic, pure Montessori environment with all authentic materials that are very new and very clean and very bright and very shiny. We're very proud of our Montessori studios. Our infant community, you can see here, is that it's all about fostering independence. So everything is at the size of the child, and we trust the child to do whatever he or she believes that they are capable of doing. Everything is orderly, the environment is prepared, and it really sets the stage for children to flourish and grow at their own pace. In our children's house environment, you see here, we're starting to get a little more academic. Children clean up after themselves. They use the real tools that adults use, but at their size. And then our academics are concrete based. So when this child here, Liam, is learning about the number 5, it's not a 5 on a piece of paper that is a symbol. I mean, this is a symbol, but he already has learned through concrete Montessori materials what 5 is. So once he knows what 5 really is, which is 5 discrete units of something, then he starts learning how to actually form the symbol of the letter 5. He uses a sandpaper letter, which gives him that sensory experience. Then he writes the letter in the sand, and then through stages, he will very soon be able to write the number 5. Here you can see our children do love reading. We have children start reading very young when they're ready, but they have access to beautiful books, and we have an extremely high focus of reading in our school. Moving on to our Spark Studio, which is Prepa or Kinder through 2nd grade. You'll notice our studios are mixed ages. That's another invention of Maria Montessori that works very well, because it gives the older students a chance to be leaders, and it gives the younger students someone to model their growth after. Works super well. So here are our children in the Spark Studio environment. Again, huge focus on reading, on friendship, on grace and courtesy, and on becoming independent learners. Moving on to our Discovery Studio. These are children from 3rd to 5th grade. And here you see, this is when we start introducing technology. So we do robotics, we do coding, and we also learn a lot through the computer. So yes, we use YouTube videos, TED Talks. We also use adaptive software such as Acton Academy so that they can learn at their own pace and that they're not dependent on an adult teacher. Our teachers are called guides, and they instruct. They don't do any direct instruction. They equip, they inspire, and they coach. And they create games that children learn through, which we'll talk a little bit about. Every 6 weeks, we have a major project called a quest. And like, for example, right now we're doing a human anatomy quest. The entire thing is hands-on. And it ends not in an exam, but in a public exhibition. So that's a very different feeling. Preparing an exhibition to show your family, your friends, and the public what you've learned has so much more importance to children than taking a written test on a piece of paper and then getting a grade from one person, a teacher. So in our exhibitions, they are a formative assessment, not a summative assessment, meaning that they're actually learning through the assessment. I mean, you guys probably already know what that is, but the assessment is part of the learning process. And because it's formative, the message is the learning never ends. If you didn't learn everything that you needed to learn, you can continue learning about it, right? The learning never stops. So we don't consider the end of a unit to be like, well, that's it. Did you learn or not? Now we're going to give you a judgmental grade. No, it's like we give feedback on how much you learned or didn't learn so that you can improve the next time. Next, we have our middle school studio. So here again, mixed ages, kids from 6th grade to 8th grade are together. We have I heard what you said about how there's a lot of like backstabbing and bullying and gossiping at this age. We work really hard to prevent that at our school. So from the littlest kids, we are working always on grace and courtesy. We are working on social emotional learning. Kids are learning to notice their feelings, identify their feelings, and speak their feelings, to express them instead of acting them out. And we work with Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication methodology to have children be able to talk about how they feel and what they need and ask for what they want. And not only that, but our children make their own rules. So one of their biggest rules is no bullying, no hitting, no name calling, no insulting. They put those rules, and then they actually hold one another accountable to those, not the adults, but the kids. So they know when someone's being mean, and they know that it isn't good, but they have the power in our school to do something about it, and not in a punishing way, but in a learning way. So we find that this works really well, and that our students have authentic friendships. And that's perhaps the most beautiful thing about our school. And actually, we have a former guide, you'll see her right here, Gabby Rosales, who is attending right now because she's also a psychologist. And I would love to invite her to take a break in the presentation and have her talk a little bit about her experience working at Acton for 3 years. I'm going to stop sharing. Hi, Gabby.
Hello. Hi. Hello, everyone. Well, it's so glad to see you, Shannon and Carms, again. We worked side by side for 3 years, and it was actually a great experience. And well, hello to everyone else here. I'm so glad to see so many people interested, like psychologists interested actually in this kind of education, because I was there and I started at Acton not really fully understanding the whole method. I just knew it was something new. I heard what they were promoting and how they were approaching the like education in general. So I was attracted to it, but starting there, it just blew my mind as a psychologist to see. Well, first of all, and what I think I like the most from the beginning is actually seeing how Acton works with soft skills, which we don't see that happening around in our schools. So the fact that they are learning their adaptability, critical thinking, social emotional skills, communication skills, that is key, especially for the world we live in right now. And then through the quest, the way they were learning chemistry, for example. I'm saying this like chemistry, math, these are the things that our kids usually frowned on, like, oh no, I don't like that. But the way they actually interact with this complicated subjects that they see normally at school through books and memorizing, these projects that they did actually created interest and also creative thinking, which I love the most. To actually see them engaged in projects that we would normally see them reject, but the fact that they had a challenge, they had to solve something, and it was more related to a game than actually like I have to memorize all of these formulas. The creative thinking just sparked in them, and they sometimes discovered talent. They discovered many things in themselves that before they didn't think they were good at. They were like, no, that seems hard. I can't be good at that. And it was wonderful to actually see their self-esteem grow when they achieved each one of these challenges, because we didn't make it seem inapproachable, like chemistry, inapproachable, physics, inapproachable, so hard, only for really like genius people, because that's usually the way our kids are looking at these subjects, because they are presented in such a complicated way. But that's exactly what I loved about Acton. They seemed everything approachable, and the way the projects are created, it was I mean, for me as a guide as well, I had the opportunity to be with Discovery and Agora, which were very different experiences. And the way the structure for each project are made is exactly to create interest, to spark creative thinking, critical thinking, teamwork, problem solving, time management, which I find is something that our kids right now that they are at home, now that they're at home, they're learning about time management. But what happens when you don't get this opportunity to learn about time management, and then all of a sudden you're out there in the world, you're in college, you have this, you got your dream job, and then you don't know how to manage your time. But the way that Acton is made is precisely for them to develop the soft skills that they're going to need in the real world. And actually, it was, we always laughed about it when we talked about this with Shannon and Carmen and the other guides, is that, I mean, I was a child of traditional school, of course. So when I came into Acton, I could see all of these skills also grow in myself, because I had to be like, I had to learn how to teach them about time management or how to guide them through time management. So I had to learn how to do that myself. And I could see a positive impact on me. And then as a psychologist, I could see that Acton was a place where I could actually apply all that I've learned about social emotional skills, teach them about conflict resolution. We don't have to wait till there is a big problem or our kids are facing high levels of frustration for them to learn the skills. The skills are basic for our everyday. So I really love the fact that I could use, like Shannon and Carmen, we talked about these different strategies we could use to help them solve their problems, but to help them do it themselves. We never solved anything for them. Like, we were never like, okay, you're going to do this and you're going to that and you're going to apologize. That was out of the question. We always taught them methods in which they could first identify a problem, express how that made them feel, and then, okay, how are we going to fix this? So we could see the level of frustration in our kids actually diminish every time, because the frustration came out of, I don't know what to do with this problem that's making me feel this way. So when we were teaching them how to solve their own problems, every time they faced a new problem, it was like, okay, so I'm going to go through this process that I've been guided through. And okay, this is how I'm going to solve it. So I found it amazing to see when they actually learned the process to resolve their conflicts. It was amazing to see them do it themselves. And they just came to us and like, hey, Gabby, so this happened today and this is how we solved it. And this is what we did about it. And I was like, wow, I didn't learn that until I was like, I don't know, maybe in college, but I didn't know how to do that when I was 9 and 10 or 12 or 15. And you're seeing these very young kids with skills that are going to get them through the real world in a much better way. So I feel Acton was a great learning process for me as a therapist, because I also could understand from the educational point of view, how can I help my patients when they come with these problems from traditional school, when they're not being supported properly? Because I was in there, and I could also, now I have also the skills to help teachers, to provide advice, techniques, structure for them as well. So for me, adaptability was also a great point, because the fact that you have to be with younger kids and older kids, you have to learn how to adapt, how to work with different ages, So that gives them another set of skills. So adaptability, communication, creative thinking, dependability. Oh, it was amazing to see them being dependent to make decisions on their own because we let them do it and we let them fail. I don't know if Shannon already mentioned about letting them fail, which was hard at first because sometimes you got to be, okay, what do you want to do? You're facing a problem. What do you want to do? Okay, you want to do that? What's going to happen? Think about what's going to happen if you choose this way or this way. Okay, depending on what you choose, that's the result you're going to get. And what about if I fail, Gabby? They were like, what if things don't go out? Well, you learned something and then you're going to learn how to do it differently next time. So in many different ways, we were addressing frustration, the frustration that our kids are experiencing in different aspects of education. So work ethic, teamwork, positivity, time management, motivation, because they weren't feeling as things were too hard. They were just learning different ways to do it. It was, if they got it wrong, it was not like I failed to the world. It was more like I just need a new strategy. So in many different ways, as a psychologist, for me, it was so enriching experience to see kids work this way and learn this amazing skills and see themselves feel so confident with themselves and confidence, daring. They were like, let's do it.
Thank
I
you.
can do it.
Thank you so much, Gabby. I remember when a great story about Gabby and a girl who came to our school from the international school. She was supposed to be in 5th grade. Her reading level was like 2nd grade level, math terrible. And she was so shy that she couldn't even hardly talk. And within, she came in August, and by February, her reading level was at her level. She was reading at 5th grade level, doing math at 5th grade level. And the best thing is that by June, she was the star of the school play. And she was no longer shy at all. And her real personality came out. And it was just absolutely amazing to watch, because she was in an environment where she was not bullied. She wasn't judged. She wasn't criticized. It was just like, well, what are you going to do today? And then she was able to florecer, and she's not the only one. Like, we have so many stories of kids like that. So thank you so much, Gabby. And one thing related to what Gabby said too, is that there's a rule at Acton is that adults cannot answer questions. So if a student, and that sounds crazy, I know it sounds crazy, but when a student comes and says, I don't know how to do this math problem, this is too hard, how do I do this math problem? We say, that is hard. That looks really hard. What are you going to do about it? What resources do you have to solve this problem? And by not taking their power away from them, they go and they learn how to solve all their problems. And we literally do that with every single thing. We don't answer any questions. And so right away, they know, like, okay, this is my responsibility. My education is my responsibility, not my parents, not my teachers. It's my responsibility. And that's an incredible level of power to give a child, and they can handle it. They're capable of far more than we could ever imagine. Would you say that's true, Gabby?
Totally. They blew us away every day in a different way.
Yeah.
Every time they did something that it was mind-blowing, because it's something you don't expect from someone that young, because we usually have this mindset, oh no, they're too young, they can't do that.
Yeah, we underestimate
They can't
them.
do that. But
we really
exactly
do.
But when we stop doing that and we just let them fly as high as they can, they surprise us and they surprise themselves with everything that they can do, the decision making, the confidence in what they're doing, their critical thinking, which is amazing, because by not answering questions, we are making them think for themselves, find answers to the world around them, and not like deposit information. And this is the way you're supposed to do it. This is the way you're supposed to think about things. So this is the adult that you're supposed to be. They feel free to make choices.
Thank you so much, Gabs. Okay, so continuing on, Launchpad is our high school studio. We are not there yet. We're growing with our students. Our oldest student is 12. and we're going to keep growing with those students up until high school, but we will have high school. Okay, so a lot of people ask, what can a child do after graduating from Acton Academy? And we will tell you that they can do whatever they want to do. Okay, there's so many options for them. They receive a diploma from the United States. And we have had no graduates here in El Salvador yet because we're young, but other Actons have. So for example, one girl from Guatemala, she didn't go to college. She went out to California and she started her own crowdsourcing learning company in Silicon Valley. She pitched it to VC investors and received over $1 million in VC capital and started a company. Another boy moved to Japan to learn Japanese, and then he came back and enrolled in Florida International University. Another young man interned with Karl Rove, who was an advisor to President Bush. 2 young men from Austin are interning at SpaceX. And most of them, like every other senior in high school, go on to university. So we've had them go to Georgia Tech, Florida International, UT Austin, UFM Guate, and more and more and more. So there's nothing that an Acton graduate can't do. They can do anything a regular graduate can do, and then some, because they actually have a much broader idea of what the future can be for them. It's not just going to college. I gotta let my dog out. Okay, so what do parents think? Well, we just have one testimonial video for you of one of our parents. Maybe some of you know her, Caro Rovira. She works for Ascen. And let me launch that. Wait a second.
Como, digamos, como experta en educación, porque ha desafiado mis propios paradigmas sobre lo que es educar. Ya, yo fui formada.
Wait, can you see that?
De lo que es la educación y ha sido un aprendizaje continuo y ha sido un aprendizaje incluso como, digamos, como experta en educación, porque ha desafiado mis propios paradigmas sobre lo que es educar. Yo fui formada en una estructura tradicional y en un marco de referencia tradicional de lo que es la educación, y Acton me ha permitido desafiar eso e ir aprendiendo a la par de mi hija lo que es la educación innovadora, lo que es realmente la educación que nos va a llevar al futuro, ¿verdad? Para mí es increíble cómo tú vas aprendiendo también a la par de tu hijo, ¿verdad? Esta autonomía, cómo aprendes a confiar en tu hijo con Acton, porque tradicionalmente tú estás acostumbrado a protegerlo de los fracasos, a protegerlo de los desafíos, digamos, de la lucha que significa el aprendizaje, y es paradójico, pero así es. O sea, los sistemas tradicionales te llevan a eso, a cuidarlos demasiado en su proceso de aprendizaje para garantizar que tengan éxito en ese proceso. En Acton, como se valora sobremanera el proceso en sí mismo y se valora sobremanera lo que se logra en términos de aprendizaje en ese proceso, tú tenés que ir aprendiendo a no sobreproteger al niño en el proceso de aprendizaje, y ahí vas descubriendo maravillas. O sea, la verdad que a mí me ha sorprendido lo que yo he visto en mi hija, en un sistema que no tiene tareas, encontrarme con una niña que se quiere levantar más temprano para terminar de leer el libro porque su meta ha sido alcanzar cierto número de lectura en la semana y ella quiere lograr su propia meta.
Okay, so yeah, so she's a mom, and am I on mute? No. Okay, so also here's some thought leaders in the world. So like I said, Acton started in 2009, and now because it's growing and growing, it's getting more popular, right? And more people are starting to understand the magic of it and what it's doing. So there's just some people here, Seth Godin, who's a big proponent of, well, he's actually a marketing specialist, but he's really passionate about kids being having much higher expectations for what children can do in the world. And then Heather Staker here, she works with blended learning programs. So she fell in love with Acton, and she helps other schools learn how to blend self-directed learning with traditional learning. And then Gary Vaynerchuk here is like a huge entrepreneur, and he really promotes youth entrepreneurship, which is something that we're also very into. We do every year a children's business fair that is not just for our students, but also for any young people between the ages of 6 and 16 to come and learn how to develop their own product and sell it on the market. We've done this 3 times here now. It's been absolutely amazing. And kids learn so much through that process. And if you can imagine, it's these skills that allow someone to be a great entrepreneur are the same skills that you need now to be successful, right? It's not about memorizing content and being able to regurgitate it on a test. It's about, can I look at what the world needs, come up with an amazing idea, develop that idea, persuade other people to believe in my idea, put a price on that idea that will bring me enough money and value in order to sustain my life, and also bring value to my customers. How do I communicate about it? How do I pitch someone my idea? It's like everything you need to build a product and sell it is what you need to be successful in the modern world. So we allow children to practice that with us over time. And if you can imagine a student coming to Acton, from the time they start school until they graduate, they'll develop their own business 10 times, 1 time a year. So the power in that, the confidence that a child will have, the skill set that they'll have when they go out in the world after they graduate is just, it's incomparable. As I said, the school is growing. We were about number 10. Now there are more than 300 in the world. They're mostly concentrated in the United States and Canada, but there are actually 4 in the region here in Central America, 2 in Guatemala, 1 in Honduras, and 1 here. And they're also growing very strongly in Latin America. Some of you guys had asked what was Acton like during COVID. Our kids did not miss 1 day of school. They went home. We said, oh, school's closing on March 12th, March 11th. We packed up we gave everybody their books and their computers, and they took them home. And this is my daughter here working the next morning at 8:30 in the morning. We literally did not miss a day of learning because it's a self-directed learning environment. They don't need a teacher. So they were just able to get online and set their goals and start working themselves. And then here are pictures in February 2021. These were taken yesterday. So we are open, actually, semi-presencial, for our 3-year-olds until our 12-year-olds. We're 11-year-olds. We're open 2 days a week. And then our middle schoolers are actually doing a virtual collaboration with 2 other Actons in the United States. So you can see this here, this Zoom is where they're on the Zoom with their colleagues from the United States. So they're getting a chance to interact there. Okay, so let's look at the key differences. Conventional education is adult-directed. Acton is self-directed, so it's much more empowering. Conventional education deals with textbooks and worksheets. We use mostly hands-on projects and adaptive software. Homework in a conventional school. I know a lot of parents and kids don't like that. We don't have homework. We believe that kids should be kids, and after school, ideally adults don't work when they get home from work. So it needs to be a time for family, for after school activities, for learning music, for doing sports, for resting, for sleeping, for being a kid. So we don't have homework. Conventional school is time-based. So you have 1 year or 9 months to learn 5th grade math. And if you don't learn it, you're defective, we put you back so that you have to learn it again for a year. In Acton, we don't do that. Time is totally unlimited and mastery is fixed. So we say you take as much time as you need to master 5th grade math, but you have to master 5th grade math to 100% before you move on to 6th grade. Because why? Because if you move on to 6th grade with an 8 or a B plus, you're still missing content. You're still missing math. And so then you're going to go into 6th grade and you're not going to have a good foundation. And we don't think that's a good idea. So we know now that with technology and everything, you don't have to, there's no limits. Like you can take as long as you need to learn something, but you have to learn it to mastery. We talked about this summative assessment. We don't do much of that. We do formative assessments. Conventional schools here have the MENAT accreditation. We do not. We are not interested in getting it. We don't find it to be very valuable, to be honest, and we believe it will limit the way that we function. We do have a United States accreditation, so we will issue you from the United States the paperwork that you need, and you can bring it here and do the apostille and get the equivalencia. And then that allows us to do things like be open during COVID because we're not subjected to the same rules that other schools are. Testing is a big focus in conventional schools. For us, we do give the Iowa basic test one time a year, simply to measure our progress in reading, writing, and math. And we don't make a big deal out of it. We're just like, hey, we're going to have a test today and some fun snacks later, and that's it. And our kids are doing very well. The last 3 years that we tested, kids were on average scoring about 1.5 grade levels higher than they would have been in conventional school. So we're doing fine. Conventional school is about learn to know, so memorizing content. And we know that when all the totality of human knowledge is available on your phone, that you don't need to memorize. It's more important that you know how to know if information is correct and true. And so we focus on learning to be, learning to do, and learning how to learn whatever it is that you need to learn to be successful in whatever you're doing. Okay, so who is Acton for? Acton is for children who prefer hands-on exploratory learning. So if you have those learners that need to be on their feet and not in a seat, Acton might be a great place for them. Children who are disengaged in conventional school because they're like bored, or they want to be, they want to be active and moving around and they want to direct themselves. That's the kind of kids that we're looking for. Kids who have a strong, specific passion. So like my son, for example, all he wants to do is engineering. So yes, he reads, yes, he writes, he does all that, but he really wants to focus on engineering. And at Acton, he can do that because there's time for passion projects. When they're not working on their core skills, they can be learning what they want to learn and doing what they want to do. Kids who are entrepreneurial. We had a student who in our middle school who was he was really into Fortnite, and he had started a whole company around Fortnite. And he also was a Federation shooter, like what do you call that? Tiro. And he loved to do that. And so he was able to focus on the things that he really loved and still go to school with us at the same time. We are open, of course, to children who may be gifted or talented and feel frustrated or limited by conventional school. Kids who want to move at their own pace. So maybe they're really fast in math, but they're slower in reading. We're a great place for that because, like I said, we're variable. They can move at their own pace. You guys all talked about kids that are thriving at home because they are in environments that allow bullying and actually promote bullying. And this is a strong statement, but I believe that the way that conventional school is set up, that teachers have a mandate to make their kids learn a certain amount of things in a certain amount of time, turns oftentimes those teachers into bullies because they need to force compliance, and that's not respectful. So what happens is that they're modeling bullying in the school very often. And the school becomes a place that isn't very humanistic. It isn't very empathetic. It isn't very compassionate. And we don't have that at school. Our guides are loving, they're kind, we model that, and we also encourage our children to model that also through all those things that Gabby talked about and I talked about. So shy and sensitive and unique children absolutely flourish in our school because it's small. There's not that pressure jostling around in the hallway with your uniform on and your backpack and your locker. We don't have any of that. It's like coming to a house. People who want a micro school and that homey atmosphere with high care and personal attention, that is who we are. People who need a flexible schedule. So like I said, athletes who travel, or families who are kind of international and need to move or go somewhere to see family for 6 weeks at a time, we accommodate that. We have a totally flexible schedule. And autodidacts, kids who really love to learn on their own, do great at our school. Okay, weight Acton may not be for children who have developmental conditions that prevent learning independently. We don't have any special support or shadow teachers. We don't have any training in special education. So we don't have the resources or the staff to handle that. Behavior problems that prevent being respectful, we won't deal with that. We need our children to be respectful. We'll help them become respectful, but they have to be willing to do that. If students prefer that adults direct them and they're kind of like, I don't know what to do on my own, please someone tell me what to do, they are better off at conventional school. We don't do well with helicopter or snowplow parents. We need parents who say, I trust you, I believe that you can do this, and I'll be here for you if you need me. That's the kind of those are the kind of parents that are perfect for us. And if kids want that classic conventional school experience of like big dances and sports teams and the big campus, this is not for them. Like we don't have a cancha, we don't have a swimming pool, we don't have that kind of stuff. So for kids that really want that kind of an experience, they should definitely be in conventional school. Okay, if you're curious to learn more, we're going to follow up with all this information, but there's our website. You know, if you guys want to have a personal conversation or refer families, we'll give you all that information. And then we're also going to include in this a list of resources for you. These all are linked so that you can like learn more about kind of the movement of innovative education in the world. And to thank you all for coming, we would love for you to share with us your location so that we can pass by and bring you the book about our school that was written by the founder, Laura Sandifer, called The Courage to Grow, How Acton Academy Turns Learning Upside Down. So we would love to give that to you for your libraries. We just need you to send us an email or a WhatsApp of your location would be great. And then I can drive around and deliver those to you next week. And now it is time for questions. What questions do you guys have for us? Carolina?
Well, I don't know if you guys have any experience with children with autism and how you just said. I think it's mostly for children in a level 1 autism spectrum disorder, which are the Asperger's or high level functional children.
I would say that we would look at that on a case-by-case basis. So we would love to see every child. Part of the application process are días de prueba, so they can come and experience it, and we can experience them, and then we can make a real assessment of whether we think that child would thrive at our school. But I would say, I mean, the two most important things are independence and respect. So if they can be independent and respectful, they could very well be a good fit.
Yeah. because I have hiperléxicos, niños hiperléxicos, children that can speak in English, Russian, and can read those idioms and pronounce them correctly.
Wow.
Their English is more is way better than mine.
Okay.
And they also can understand it. And I have children which have a passion for numbers and letters. And in other schools, they try to block that interest.
Yeah.
Because they think that they distract it from other tasks. And I love it, that part when you guys said that you promote those interests, and you can go to children own pace, right?
Yeah.
Because my children can have a great strength in one area, which can be math or reading, but their needs are in the writing.
Yeah. So we believe that if a child, every person has like their calling in the world, and that's what should be focused on. Of course, they need to read and write and do math, and they need to know basic things, of course. But we don't want everyone graduating and being the same. We want them graduating, knowing what they're great at, and being equipped to go forward in what they're great at. Because we think that that's the most honorable and respectful thing for humans. And also in this economy, if everyone is the same, they'll all be replaced by computers and robots. So they need to be focusing on what they're best at. And they need to be going for something that they really are passionate about, so that they can develop the creativity, the curiosity, and all the skill that they're going to need to go very far in life. You know, if they're all the same, it's like, what are we doing? Like, why? It doesn't, that doesn't help anyone today, you know? So yes, please, we're going to send you the link so that you can refer parents to come in and sign up on our website. They'll start receiving emails about the school so that they can understand it. They can attend an information session or a virtual tour, and their children can try it. And we see if they're a great fit for us, and they see if we're a great fit for them. So every admissions decision for us is very special. And we really get to know the family and the child before we bring them in, because we want them to be an integral part of our family, really.
Well,
okay.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for the presentation. I'm very happy that I was here. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, everybody. I need to excuse myself because I have another appointment.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
We'll send you follow-up information, and we'll ask for your direction.
I already sent my location.
Yay! Thank you so much. Okay, great to meet you.
Okay. Bye.
Mucho gusto. Adiós.
Hi, Guadalupe.
Hi. I wanted to ask you about ADHD and oppositional children. How have you had? I know that they're like in the spectrum that you don't accept, but I don't know if you are dealing with some of them, or how do you deal with them?
I don't know, because again, it's like so individual. You know, I think I'm not a trained psychologist or a special ed educator. I find that ADD is a context dependent diagnosis. So it's, if a child can't sit still or listen for an extended period of time or focus on homework, they can be labeled as ADD in our school, because they can move around freely and they can work at their own pace. And a lot of it is like getting up and moving around. Some of their challenges will be reduced just because of our environment. But if they have really where it's preventing them from staying focused on anything, and they are, you know what I mean? So there's some ADD, ADHD students that I think would thrive with us. And we have had some of those, and they are mild, but it works for them. And then we've had some that where it's like it doesn't work and they end up not doing well and leaving. So again, it's like a case by case basis. Oppositional defiance disorder. We really haven't had anyone like that. If we've had students that have been like repeatedly hostile to other students, and we have expelled them. Because just don't do that. We just can't do that.
Okay.
We just don't. We are, again, because we're not mean ed, we can choose who our students are, and even if they come in, they don't necessarily get to stay. So we just don't tolerate it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and for the invitation.
Thank you.
I will set my location and look forward to know a little bit more about you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have to leave because I have an appointment now, but
understand. Yeah, don't worry. Go on.
thank you very much, and good week for everybody.
Likewise. Thank you. So
Okay.
sweet. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Rosario. Maybe she's busy. So, okay. Well, so Carolina, there she is. Hi, Rosario.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Gusto
¿Qué
de
tal? ¿Cómo
escucharlas.
estás? Gracias.
Todo muy interesante. Estoy muy contenta de saber más de ustedes.
Gracias,
Y
mi amable.
ya los conocía un poco, pero estaba interesada en saber algo más.
Excelente. ¿Tiene alguna pregunta?
Creo que la exposición ha sido muy clara. Creo que sé exactamente qué es lo que ustedes hacen y qué es lo que pueden hacer y qué niños son los que se favorecerían para este programa de Acton Academy. Pues voy a estar muy pendiente porque a veces tengo chicos que necesitan este tipo de escuelas y creo que van a estar muy felices ahí.
Excelente, muchas gracias.
Les aseguro que cuando regrese a El Salvador, ahorita no estoy allí, estoy en Austin.
Oh, en Austin. Donde nacimos.
Y les prometo, creo que tengo algunos candidatos.
Excelente. Okay. Pues le vamos a mandar más información, la presentación y todo para que pueda tener al mano la información.
Sí, eso es bien importante. Creo que ya con alguno que otro han ido el año pasado y les está yendo bien. Así es que gracias por tomarse el tiempo y por invitarme.
Igualmente, muchas gracias por su atención.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you invited me and so honored too. I will send my location too, and I am looking forward for more information about you guys because I think that I may have some candidates for you.
Great. And Carolina, could I ask you about because we've never ¿cómo se dice? Like, you were saying that you have students with like altas capacidades. You have patients that are like what used to be called Asperger's, right? But I guess now it's called like level 1 autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah. In the manual of the psychiatrists in learning disabilities, they appear the term Asperger and put it in the level 1 autism spectrum disorder, which are have high capacity, but they may have some needs in socializing and other needs like writing because of their fine motor skills and strength and muscle tone for doing physical activities, but they can show real strength in other areas, mostly intellectual areas.
Okay. Yeah, okay, interesting. We don't have very much experience with that segment of children, but we are definitely open to talking to families like that and to having them try the school and see if they really like it, because it could be a great environment that they can go forward in the projects and the subjects that they're really interested in, and then take a little bit longer to do the things that are challenging them a little bit more. Yeah, so that might be a great place for them.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming and for all your great questions and comments.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I now I have an appointment too.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Great to meet you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Bye.